In today's lesson, we're learning how to convert percents to decimals and converting decimals to percents. We will start with learning how to convert percents to decimals. To convert a percent to a decimal, you will move the decimal 2 places to the left. The example you see below shows 75%. In order to convert this percent to a decimal, I first have to locate the decimal point. If you don't see a decimal point in the percentage, like in the example below, it will always be placed at the end of the number on the right. So 75%, the decimal point is after the last digit on the right. Next, we need to move this decimal point 2 places to the left. 1 space, 2 spaces. So this percentage becomes 75 hundredths as a decimal. You might be wondering why there is a Dr. Pepper can on the screen. A method that I like to use is the Dr. Pepper method when converting percents and decimals. So on your paper, you can write a D and a P for Dr. Pepper. In this case, we are converting a percentage to a decimal. So we're starting with the P of Dr. Pepper, and so I need to move to the left 2 times. This is a quick way to remember which direction you need to move the decimal point when converting. Now we're going to complete 6 guided practice problems together. The first guided practice problem is 25%. I'm first going to write 25 off to the side. Remember, if you don't see the decimal point in the percentage, it's hiding behind the number. So we're going to place our decimal point at the end of our number on the right. Next, if I write my D and my P for Dr. Pepper, I can determine which way I need to move my decimal point. So we're starting, we have a percentage, 25%, so I need to move towards the D, so I'm going to move my decimal point to the left 2 times. 1, 2. So my decimal for 25% is 0 and 25 hundredths. In guided practice problem number 2, we will convert 5% to a decimal. So I'm first going to write my 5 for 5%. Again, I don't see the decimal point, so it's hiding behind my number on the right. Using my Dr. Pepper method, I know that I need to move to the left to get from the P to the D, so I'm going to move my decimal point to the left 2 times. 1, 2. Notice how there is a blank space now where I moved my decimal point over the second time. When you see that blank space, there's actually a 0 inside of there, so you can write in the 0. So now 5% as a decimal, after we've moved our decimal point 2 spaces over to the left, is 0 and 5 hundredths. In question number 3, we need to convert 60% to a decimal. I'm first going to write 60 off to the side. Again, I do not see a decimal point, so it's hiding behind my number on the right-hand side. I'm going to go and look at my Dr. Pepper method up at the top, and I'm moving from the P to the D, so I need to move my decimal point to the left 2 times. 1, 2. So 60% as a decimal is 0 and 6/10. Now you can add this 0 on at the end. It does not change the number. So both of these would be acceptable answers. Now we're going to convert 134% to a decimal. Again, I do not see the decimal point, so it's hiding behind the number on the right-hand side. I'm moving from the P to the D in Dr. Pepper, so I need to move to the left 2 times with my decimal point. So 134% as a decimal is 1 and 34/100ths. Question number 5 shows 12.5%. In this percentage, we can see our decimal point, so we are just going to move it 2 spaces to the left to make it into a decimal number. So 12.5% as a decimal is 0 and 125 thousandths. Last, we have 98%. Again, I don't see my decimal point, so that means it's hiding behind my number on the right-hand side. And if I want to move it to a decimal number, I need to move my decimal point 2 spaces to the left. So 98% as a decimal is 98/100ths. Now we're going to learn how to convert decimals to percents. To convert a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right. So the exact opposite of converting a percent to a decimal. Again, if we use the Dr. Pepper method, and we write our DP, this time we are going to be moving from the D in Dr. Pepper to the P. So we're moving to the right 2 places. In the example below, you see 75/100ths. In order to move this decimal number to a percent number, we need to move our decimal point 2 spaces to the right. So we move it over 1 and 2 spaces. So 75/100ths as a percentage is 75%. Now we're going to complete 6 guided practice problems together. Before I get started, I'm going to write my DP for my Dr. Pepper method. I know I need to convert each of these decimals to a percent. So I'm starting at the D and I need to move to the P in Dr. Pepper. So I know I need to move to the right 2 spaces with my decimal point. The first guided practice problem is 35 hundredths. Again, I'm going to write my number off to the side a little bit larger so that I have more room to work. I see my decimal point in my number, so all I need to do is take it and move it 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. So 35 hundredths as a decimal is equivalent to 35%. Next, let's convert 6 hundredths to a percent. I see the decimal point in my number, so all I have to do is move it over to the right 2 places. 1, 2. So 6 hundredths as a decimal is equivalent to 6%. Remember when you're writing percentages to always include the percentage sign. Otherwise, it's just a regular number. Next, let's convert 7/10 to a percentage. So I'm going to write it off to the side, and I see my decimal point in my number, so I just need to move it over 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. Again, I have this blank space. So remember, all we need to do is fill in that blank space with a 0 placeholder. Now I can write my percentage. 7/10 is the same as, or equivalent to, 70%. And I'm including my percentage sign with my number because it is a percent. In question number 4, we are converting 1 45 hundredths to a percent. Again, I see my decimal point already in my number, so I just need to move it over 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. So my percentage is 145%, and I'm including my percentage sign. Next we have 0 and 178 thousandths. I see my decimal point in my number, so I just need to move it over 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. So my percentage would be 17 8/10%. And last, we're going to convert 97 hundredths to a percent. I see my decimal point in my number, so I just need to move it over 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. So 97 hundredths is equivalent to 97%, and I'm including my percentage sign. Now it's your turn to complete some independent practice problems on your own. There will be an answer key for you to check your work, but only after you have completed and submitted your independent practice.